thing that's strange is that, I mean, this time last year, I think there was a lot of talk about, scaling eventually hitting a wall, about us running out of data. And yet, we're recording now, Gemini 3 has just been released, and it's leading on this whole range of different benchmarks. How has that been possible? Like, wasn't there supposed to be a problem with scaling hitting a wall?
I think a lot of people thought that, especially as other companies have sort of had slower progress, shall we say. But I think we've never really seen any wall as such. Like, what I would say is maybe there's like diminishing returns. And people, when I say that, people only think like, oh, so there's no returns, like it's 0 or 1. It's either exponential or nothing, or it's asymptotic. No, actually, there's a lot of room between those two regimes, and I think we're in between those. So it's not like you're going to double the performance on all the benchmarks every time you release a new iteration. Maybe that's what was happening in the very early days, 3-4 years ago. But you are getting significant improvements, like we've seen with Gemini 3, that are well worth the investment and the return on that investment and doing. So that we haven't seen any slowdown on. There are issues like, are we running out of just available data? But there are ways to get around that, synthetic data, generating these systems are good enough, they can start generating their own data, especially in certain domains like coding and math, where you can verify the answer. In some sense, you could produce unlimited data. So all of these things, though, are research questions. And I think that's the advantage that we've always had, is that we've always been sort of research first, and I think we have the broadest and deepest research bench, always have done. And if you look back at the last decade of advances, whether that's Transformers or AlphaGo, AlphaZero, any of the things we just discussed, that they all came out of Google or DeepMind. So I've always said, like, if more innovations are needed, scientific ones, then I would back us to be the place to do it, just like we were, in the previous sort of 15 years for a lot of the big breakthroughs. So I think that's just what's transpiring. And I actually really like it when the terrain gets harder, because then it's not just world-class engineering you need, which is already hard enough, but you have to ally that with world-class research and science, which is what we specialize in. And on top of that, we also have the advantage of world-class infrastructure with our TPUs and other things that we've invested in for a long time.
I also want to talk to you about the impact that AI and AGI are going to have on wider society. And last time we spoke, you said that you thought AI was overhyped in the short term, but underhyped in the long term. And I know that this year there's been a lot of chatter about an AI bubble.
Yes.
What happens if there is a bubble and it bursts? What happens?
Well, look, I think, yes, that I still subscribe to it's overhyped in the short term, still underappreciated in the medium to long term. What's gonna, how transformative it's going to be. There is a lot of talk, of course, right now about AI bubbles. In my view, I think it's not one thing, binary thing, are we or aren't we? I think there are parts of the AI ecosystem that are probably in bubbles. One example would be, just seed rounds for startups that basically haven't even got going yet, and they're raising at tens of billions of dollars valuations just out of the gate. It's sort of interesting to see how can that be sustainable. My guess is probably not, at least not in general. So there's that area. Then the people are worrying about, obviously, there's the big tech valuations and other things. I think there's a lot of real business underlying that. So, but it remains to be seen. I mean, I think maybe for any new, unbelievably transformative and profound technology, of which, of course, AI is probably the most profound, you're going to get this overcorrection in a way. So when we started DeepMind, no one believed in it. No one thought it was possible. People were wondering, what's AI for anyway? And then now, fast forward 10, 15 years, and now obviously it seems to be the only thing people talk about in business. And so but you're sort of going to get, it's almost an overreaction to the underreaction. So I think that's natural. I think we saw that with the internet. I think we saw it with mobile, and I think we're seeing it or going to see it again with AI. I don't worry too much about are we in a bubble or not, because from my perspective, as leading Google DeepMind, and also obviously with Google as an Alphabet as a whole, our job and my job is to make sure either way we come out of it very strong. And I think, and we're very well positioned. And I think we are tremendously well positioned either way. So if it continues going like it is now, fantastic. We'll carry on, all of these great things that we're doing and experiments and progress towards AGI. If there's a retrenchment, fine.